There's a lot of commotion. You kind of hear some loud noises. I had no idea what it was. And before I had any idea what was going on, I started seeing people sort of duck under their tables or respond to what was going on far in the back of the ballroom. And then an agent comes and whispers in my ear, basically says, "Sir, we have to leave."
Shocking new photos of suspected shooter Cole Allen taken in his hotel room moments before the attack on the White House Correspondents Center. Our next guest was there on Saturday night. Senator John Fetterman posting this on X shortly after the attack. Quote, "We were there front and center. That venue was not built to accommodate an event with the line of succession for the U.S. government. After witnessing last night, drop the TDS and build the White House ballroom for events exactly like these." Let's bring in Pennsylvania Democratic Senator John Fetterman. First time on the program. Welcome to America Reports. We're glad you're here, sir.
Oh, well, thanks for inviting me. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your message there. Why did you feel that important to post?
Well, it's important for a couple different reasons. Now, when I was just trying to navigate to the table, I mean, it's so packed. I mean, you could barely just move around. So it was already kind of dangerous for any reasons. And I had the top with the Speaker Johnson. I ran into Rubio. I ran in. Essentially, the entire line of succession was there. And I'm thinking, wow, they were all really just clustered in about 200 yards. And that seemed like that could be a risk, but I never thought there'd be an actual assassination attempt coming. And then finally, when it happened, I'm like, it's very, very clear. This facility was never designed to have the kind of events like this, to have the kind of individual that we need a new ballroom facility for events just like this. Why can't we just agree? Let's just build this thing and we move on. And now we create the kinds of place that you can have more inclusive, more secure, and more frequent kinds of well-organized kinds of events just like this and more.
And the irony of all of that, Senator Fetterman, it's good to have you on the program finally, appreciate that, is that by the time that this thing is built, President Trump may get to use it once or twice. It's kind of like Ronald Reagan when he said, "I'm tired of this old 707, let's build some new Air Force Ones." He didn't get to use it. President George Bush barely got the flat, and then it was a Democratic president, Bill Clinton, who got the most use of it. But as much as Democrats are railing against Donald Trump for trying to build this ballroom, there's some pretty pointed rhetoric that a lot of people are saying might have led the groundwork to what happened on Saturday. Listen to some of this here.
Well, look, Trump is running this country like an authoritarian dictator.
We know what Donald Trump's rhetoric leads to because we know many times over how his followers use violence when they follow him.
I don't agree that the rhetoric is the same across the board. These Republicans have lost their rabid minds.
And there's been no uprising by Trump voters in those districts and in those states saying, oh, no, we want Donald Trump's detention centers and concentration camps here.
When you compare the Trump administration to the rise of Nazis,
much of what I said has been proven to be true, that the institutions of this democracy are being attacked.
You know, you talk, Senator, about Trump derangement syndrome running rampant in this country. You agree with this president, not on all issues, but on many issues. What would you say to people who see...
Be defined by just being the exact opposite of whatever the president puts in front of us now. Now, I'm going to disagree with him, but I'm always going to disagree with respect. I'm never going to call people Nazis or fascists or authoritarianism and all those extreme terms. I refuse to engage in that. You know, things that I happen to agree with, I'm just going to say, hey, let's call the strikes and let's do these things. And now the ballroom is exactly one of those things. And as elaborate as that facility would be, it's almost no way that could even be finished by the time his term is even done at this point. So this is a facility that our nation deserves. And some people complain if it's private money. Some people complain, well, we can't use public. Just build the thing. If you're talking about $400 million, watch how much hundreds of millions will be spent in just one Senate race that's coming up right now in this year. It's not a money issue. It's about who happens his idea. You know, the White House needs a facility like this. And after witnessed that, as I did, you know, it's very, very clear we can't ever put our line of succession in events just like that. And now I would remind anyone that's old enough to remember about Oklahoma bombing in 1995. I mean, could you imagine if a bomb was placed there in that facility with everyone right there and in that ballroom's essentially in the basement there? So how dangerous we got so lucky that night. And I'm not going to argue about the cost. I'm not going to argue about we need a facility like that. Just build this thing and move on that. And we can argue about any of other kinds of issues, but this shouldn't be one of them.
Well, Senator, as you have heard from, who's your leader? What does the party stand for?
Well, I mean, clearly, increasingly, it's more the exact opposite of it. You know, the Democratic Party, we used to say we can't ever allow Iran to acquire a nuclear bomb. Every single Democrat, including Kamala Harris, when she was running for president in 2024, every single Democrat says that's never, we can never allow that. Now, I'll be the only Democrat to say, great, someone's willing to do that thing. Every single president since Iran was created 47 years ago. Why can't we just support these things? We can disagree on small things, but I'll be the one Democrat to say, hey, I agree with these things. Now, after, you know, we seem to forgot the president took a bullet to the head, you know, in my state just recently. Thank God, you know, he was okay. The difference between that and what happened to Kennedy was about half an inch overall. So why can't we just agree? Do this, do the right thing. It doesn't have to be, this party can't be defined by the exact opposite, what's in front there. So I believe we should secure our border. Yeah, I agree with that, and I support these things. And I also agree, if you're here illegally and you're engaging in criminal behavior, you know, deport them. You know, I was proud to be the Democratic co-sponsor of the Laken Riley bill.
You know, Senator, let's look back to 2022, because you were declared a hero in the Democratic Party for flipping a Republican seat, for holding off a challenge from Mehmet Oz, who is incredibly well-known and popular. A Democrat is going to primary you in the 2028 election. And I recall back to what Ronald Reagan said, and we talked about this on the phone when you and Sandra and I had a conference call a week ago. Ronald Reagan said, I didn't leave the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party left me. And it seems the same thing is happening with you.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, I mean, the Democrats now and they want to pander to the extreme parts of the base. And in fact, now you have actual candidates running on F Trump, putting it actually in their commercials and in their kinds of communications. So I know the bill that pays. I know how to pay the bills as a Democrat, you know, right now, and I refuse to engage in that. But now I guarantee you, as it gets closer to November, all the Democrats remember, oh my gosh, we have to flip seats, and we actually need other votes other than just the extreme part of my party. We're going to remind that. And now, as the only single Democrat that's flipped a seat, and now I've also made it mathematically impossible to reclaim the majority in the United States Senate. So if they want the Democratic Party to turn it into a witch burning and to go after, you know, the one Democrat that's done the thing that, you know, these people haven't been able to do, so they're entitled to do it. But I'm proud to represent Pennsylvania, and I don't just represent just Democrats in Pennsylvania. I represent all 13 million Pennsylvanians, and I'm going to play it straight. I'm going to never lie or pretend something's wrong. I'm going to just, what's right, I will support. And that's the voice that I'm going to continue to be, regardless what, you know, parts turn the Iran regime into the underdog. And it's like, wow, you know, it's, you know, almost cheering them for that. It's crazy. I mean, you know, like, break the Iranian regime. You know, people forgot they just executed tens and tens of thousands of its young people. They're actively executing people right now, perhaps even as we speak. You know, the Iranian regime are the bad guy. You know, America has always been the force of good. I'm proud to stand for our military, and I'm definitely going to proud to stand for America. And more parts of my party continues to call that illegal and other kinds of things. I'm proud to be on this side, and I definitely believe that's the right side of history.
So, Senator, if I could just button this up by asking you this question. I mean, you seem to be at odds with the majority of the people in the Democratic Party. And I'm wondering, when you run for re-election in 2028, like Jim Justice did when he flipped from Democrat to Republican after being governor and then running for the Senate, why don't you run as a Republican?
Well, because I'm a Democrat. I mean, for me, it's like my views remain reasonable. My voting record actually reflects that I am a Democrat. You know, what's changed me with many of my other colleagues is that I don't agree, and I use like extreme rhetoric and say, but I support what I think most Americans should agree with these things. You know, the Democratic Party, you know, we became an open border party without a doubt. And now that's wrong. And I support to make our border more security and deport all of the criminals right now. So I can't, problem is with me and my reasonable views, you know, why that problem isn't with the Democratic Party. And I think the Democratic Party, you know, has incredibly impossible to resist the worst urges and the excesses that cost us the elections back in 2024.
Only a few seconds left. How's your relationship with your Democrat colleagues?
Enough said.
Enough said? Okay, got it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, cordial, but I'm not necessarily the popular guy, which is strange to me, because it's like I'm a Democrat, and you know, I'm the guy that flipped the seat. At any rate, so.
We got it. Senator,
Well,
appreciate you joining us.
I've referred to you as the most interesting person on Capitol Hill and one of the only reasonable Democrats left. But thank you for joining us, Senator. Really a pleasure to have you on finally.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me on. All right.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.
Nation plot investigation. New details have emerged regarding the suspect, Cole Allen, following the shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. The DOJ recently released images showing Allen armed in his hotel room shortly before the event. James Comey indicted. Former FBI Director James Comey is facing a new bombshell indictment, according to recent reports. Royal visit highlights. King Charles III and Queen Camilla continue their historic U.S. visit, recently visiting the 9/11 Memorial in New York City after meeting with President Trump at the White House. DHS funding battle. Senator John Thune is criticizing House Speaker Johnson for the ongoing 74-day government shutdown over the DHS bill. International and security. Iran standoff. Tensions remain high as President Trump warns that Iran's oil infrastructure faces imminent mechanical